This is my writing vlog, November 14th, 2017. It is 2017 still, isn't it? Do you ever have that where you suddenly don't know what year you're in, or is that only me because of all the time traveling I've done? Anyway, it's current year, and this is my writing vlog. And I'm kind of babbling because I'm staring at my keyboard, trying to figure out what I'm going to write next. This is my Nanowrimo book. I veered away from my outline, and now I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Plus, I'm right in the middle of my book. It's about 40,000 words. So as far as Nanowrimo is concerned, I'm almost done. But as far as the actual book is concerned, I'm only halfway done. I expect it to be about 80,000 words. But since I've become a little bit confused about how far I am into my plot, I'm not entirely sure. Yesterday I talked about how if you get an idea that's completely different from your outline, just go with the flow, try it out, see how it goes. But today I'm faced with the consequences of having done that. And of course that is the problem with veering away from your outline, is that then your outline no longer works and you have to realign your train to the track, so to speak. I thought I had an easy way to connect where my story had gone with where I needed it to go, but looking at my outline that I had and looking at my draft that I wrote, I'm really confused and I'm totally floundering right now. So it's like a classic middle of the book problem, isn't it? I feel like all the scenes I need to write are super boring. I need to have them in order to make the ending work. I need to have them in order to make the story go forward, but I don't want to write boring scenes. The reason I ended up veering away from my outline in the first place is because I found my heroine shopping for dresses 3 scenes in a row, and I thought, this is just getting ridiculous. So I don't want to get back into the situation where I have like some super boring scene followed by another super boring scene followed by another super boring scene just because I need to info dump material and information. I need something that is solid and works, and yet it can't be so exciting that it destroys my ending. I also have 3 different strands of the story that I'm trying to work together and braid into a single unified story. On the one hand, the main focus of the story is the romance, the Hades and Persephone romance. I love that trope of romance, and the whole point of writing this book is to have a cool science fiction version of that romantic story. So I definitely need to have some romance building scenes. I need to figure out exactly where my 2 characters are and my romance plot points. On my blog, I have the necessary scenes for a romance genre. I'll do a video about that sometime. But I need to make sure that my scenes are making sense so that I'm building the love and that it's not just insta-love. Even though I did kind of work in a funny kind of insta-love, but it will sort of turn out that it's not insta-love. At least that's what I'm hoping will happen. But I want to have those scenes, that kind of romantic, gooey-eyed scenes that are the candy for my romance reader. Then I have a completely different plotline, which is the science fiction plotline. That is having to do with some genetic engineering. There was, like in a lot of dystopias, there was sort of this disease that took out all of life, or almost all of life, obviously not all of life, but took out the plant life on planet Earth. And my heroine is trying to do something to deal with that. And there's also the sort of drug thing that gives you immortality that the people who are posing as Greek gods in this storyline use to give themselves immortality. And there's an issue of, can this only be distributed to an elite individual, a few elite people, or is it something that can be distributed to the masses? And what would be the impact of that? Would that destroy everything? If everybody was immortal, would everybody run out of resources? So there's that whole kind of theme and storyline about, is it fair for a few rich and powerful people to monopolize immortality? Can they even give it to the masses? And if they could, should they? And the heroine has to deal with all of these questions, and I need to work that somehow into this middle portion of the book, because this is really the heart of the book, where all those issues have to be dealt with, and where the heroine herself has already started to question some of the values she grew up with, but has yet to fully embrace the values that she's going to have by the end of the book. So this has to be the things that make her think, the things that make you go, Then in addition to the science fiction element, there's also a political argument going through this book. And I don't want this political argument to be shallow and one-sided, where everything's black and white, where I'm simply pounding the reader on the head with my own values. Of course, as the writer, I bring my own values to it, and I can't help but kind of advocate for my own values, but I want to make the story have a strong steelman position for the opposing point of view. In fact, I want to take 2 things that I value equally, because if I value them equally, then I think can't help but make the strongest case for them in the story as well, and push those 2 value systems at loggerheads. So in this case, the environment and protecting the environment, which is something that's I think is really important. I want to have that as one of the really strong values. And as Persephone, she's the goddess of spring, and I kind of interpret that she's also kind of an environmentalist advocate, and she's very concerned about restoring the earth after this horrible dystopia apocalypse that has destroyed the environment. And at the same time, there's going to be this kind of libertarian theme, and what kind of economic system or what kind of political system is the best for actually protecting the environment. These are not always going to work well together. They're sometimes going to be in conflict. What is the argument for each side, and how can they work together, or how do they conflict with one another and force the characters to make choices between one system of values and another? I also have to make sure that that sort of political strand actually remains in the background, because it's not the main point of the novel, and I don't want to become too heavy-handed or too didactic. I want it to mostly be a light romance, and that's the main point. Would this be kind of a distant theme, and the science fiction element be kind of a middle theme, so that in order of importance it would be the romance, the science fiction, and the political line in the story. But I do want to work all of those elements into it, and so I have all of these scenes and little ideas that this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen, and I have no idea exactly what order I should put them in or how to show them. I want to cram as much detail and as much, not detail exactly, but as much information into the same scene, so that the same scene is doing double, triple work, so that it's advancing the romance, the science fiction is there, there's a little bit of a political debate going on, all at the same time. Because if I had to have separate scenes to advance all of those parts of the plot, it's going to drag and the pace is going to be annoying, and I'm definitely not going to finish in 80,000 words, and I'm definitely not going to finish by the end of November. So what I do, I have a technique for dealing with a situation like this, and I have it in my book about 30-day novel as part of my standard outlining method, but I don't always actually use it. A lot of times when I do an outline, I skip a lot of the steps that are in that 30-day novel, and then I only resort to them if I actually get stuck. Since I'm stuck now, I'm going to have to resort to them. And so what I will probably do is take out a bunch of index cards, write down each separate idea about the romance that I want to have. I'll probably do that on one color. Then I'll write down each separate sort of science fiction-y idea that I want to have about the genetics and the problem solving and how the heroine is going to do that. And she needs to acquire the tools to do that, etc., etc. All the steps that are needed for that storyline or that strand of the book. And then I'll take another color and I'll put the arguments that are being made sort of in the background, because I don't want them to be too didactic. Like I said, I don't want it to be a really preachy book or anything annoying. So I'll put those on other cards. And then what I will try to do is shuffle them around on the table or on the floor and figure out how can I combine these into scenes. There's also a couple of set pieces that I know I want to have. Since this is a romance, I want to have a ball. It's very cliche, but it's so much fun. I want to have a beautiful dress where she dances with the hero, and it's just your classic ballroom romance scene. And in my outline, at least, or in my set piece idea in my head, that's going to be when she realizes that she's in love with him, and also that she has to leave him. A very standard fairy tale mythic-like scene, a Cinderella-like scene, a Beauty and the Beast-like scene. Although this is Greek myths, they didn't really have balls, but to give it that fairy tale romantic feel, just to have an excuse to have, in my imagination at least, a beautiful ballroom scene with gorgeous clothes, because that's kind of the part of the candy fun for me. Like a candy scene means like a really fun scene for me to write, and I hope a scene that my readers will really enjoy. And I'm envisioning that probably the main readers of this will be females between the ages of 15 and 35 who like romance, who like young adult or new adult. It did occur to me that I could change the genre. I mean, I don't want to have a lot of sexy scenes, but I have considered that the plot at this point could actually go into a new adult direction. I could make it explicit in one or two scenes. If you're the kind of person who reads this and you have a preference, let me know. What would you rather read? Are you still want the like sweet romance where they don't do anything, or do you want one where they leave the bedroom door open for one or two scenes of the book? At this point, it would work either way. Her age is 22, although biologically she's 18 because she's a goddess, but she's actually 22. So new adult would fit. Anyway, that's just a sort of side thought, and I haven't made up my mind about that yet either. That would probably also have to happen somewhere in this middle section. So if I were going to have a sexy scene, I would have to decide pretty soon and decide whether I'm going to go in that direction or not. I guess I'll put that on a card as well. I'll shuffle it around. I'll give it some thought. I may need to sleep on it a night or two. I may need to take a break from this story and work on my other story for a while. I'm going to try and schedule some vlogs and some videos ahead of time as well. So I may take a day or two to work a little bit on editing and work a little bit more on my other story. I haven't been updating you on my other story, partly because I've been really into this one, and since I've been into it, I just go with it. Although I have also taken notes on some other problems that I've had with that story, usually in my early morning session. So tomorrow I will keep you updated about whether I have actually proceeded with the index card method. I'll let you know what if it's helped me at all, any thoughts I have. If you have any thoughts in the comments, go ahead and leave them there. Even if you're watching this video long after Nanowrimo 2017, go ahead and put in your comments about what you like in romance. I may have already finished this book by then. Hopefully I have. But, I like to write and I like to hear what people have to say about it. So let me know what you think, if you have any opinions, and let me know, where are you in your book? How far are you into it? I know some people may already be in the middle and some people may not quite be into that middle section yet. What do you do when you get stuck? Have you ever tried using the index method? Do you shuffle things around? I know I'm not the only person who uses that. What are your methods for getting unstuck, or for deciding the order of scenes and how to decide what information needs to go in what scene? Tara out.